Welcome to AI on AI. We like to take these deep dives into some of the most fascinating developments in the world of AI, and today's no different. It's a big one. President Trump's Stargate Project. Have you heard about this?
Oh, yeah. This one's hard to miss.
$500 billion to build data centers across the U.S. dedicated to AI development.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing, the sheer scale of it. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. OpenAI, Oracle, SoftBank. A whole bunch of private partners. They're all jumping on board.
I mean, that's some serious firepower, right? Big money, big tech. And you know what else is interesting? The timing of this whole thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. President Trump revokes President Biden's AI executive order on safeguards, and then boom, Stargate.
Like a complete 180, right?
Yeah.
So we've got this huge shift in priorities, and people are reacting in all sorts of ways.
Definitely. You've got some folks like Shelley Palmer who are super optimistic about it.
Yeah, he's saying it's going to be this massive boost for the U.S. economy, cybersecurity, even like warfare dominance.
Right, like straight out of a sci-fi movie. But then you've got people like Gary Marcus, the AI researcher. He's a little more skeptical.
Yeah, what's he saying?
Well, he's pointing out that, these huge investments in AI infrastructure, they haven't always led to profits in the past.
Okay, so that's a valid point, right? We can't just assume it's going to be a money-making machine.
Exactly. And he's also worried about the whole job displacement thing, Like, will Stargate actually create more jobs than it destroys? What about the impact on everyday Americans?
Those are some big questions, and let's not forget about the energy elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah. The data centers themselves are already huge energy consumers.
And with Stargate, it's going to be off the charts. I mean, even before this, researchers were predicting like a 15.8% increase in U.S. electricity demand just from AI.
Yeah, and here's another layer to that. President Trump declares a national energy emergency, halts offshore wind development, pauses clean energy funding from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act.
Whoa, wait a minute. So on the one hand, he's pushing for this massive AI development, and on the other hand, he's pulling back on clean energy.
Right. It's definitely a bit of a head scratcher. Doug Kalidas actually suggests that maybe Stargate is just a repackaging of existing commitments, with a new fundraising goal. And he specifically mentions the involvement of Middle Eastern funding.
Middle Eastern funding. Now that's interesting. But okay, let's get back to the energy thing for a second. Are we seriously going to power all these data centers with fossil fuels?
Well, not necessarily. Costas Mar is pretty optimistic. He thinks we can manage the energy challenges with things like bring your own power, where companies provide their own clean energy sources.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So like their own little solar farms or wind turbines or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the idea of virtual power plants.
Virtual power plants.
Basically, it's about aggregating and coordinating different energy resources. So, you're not just relying on one big power plant.
I see. And Samars is emphasizing the need for like proactive planning and collaboration to really maximize clean energy and efficiency.
Right. But, not everyone's as optimistic. Line Rolled, she's an energy expert. And she's pretty worried.
What's she concerned about?
Well, she sees this fundamental contradiction, bolstering AI while restricting clean energy development. And she's also concerned about tech companies getting preferential access to the power grid.
Oh, so like the little guy gets stuck with the higher electricity costs.
Yeah, potentially. And then we've got the Electric Power Research Institute. They're a nonprofit research organization.
Okay.
And they're pointing out that the fastest deployable energy sources right now are a mix of things.
Like what?
Renewables, like wind and solar batteries and natural gas.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
Right. And the representative was really emphasizing the need for data center flexibility and geographically distributed computing to ease the strain on the grid.
Okay, so spreading things out a bit more. Makes sense. So let's hear from some of the data center experts themselves. Kevin Cochran from Vulture. He's actually pretty optimistic about Stargate's potential.
Yeah, he's excited about the possibility of expanding data centers across different regions.
So more geographically diverse computing access.
Exactly. But he's also stressing the importance of, energy efficiency and sustainability when we're building these new data centers.
Of course. We can't just build a bunch of energy guzzlers.
Right. And then there's Josh Messout from Civo, another cloud computing provider. He's kind of cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. What does that mean?
Well, he's bringing up a really important point. The shortage of GPUs.
Oh, yeah. Those are essential for AI development, right?
Absolutely. And smaller businesses are already having a tough time getting their hands on them.
So he's worried that Stargate's benefits are going to mostly go to the big players, like OpenAI.
Exactly. It's like we're giving all this government backing to AI, but is it really going to be accessible to everyone?
That's a good point. And what about the actual nuts and bolts of building all these data centers?
Yeah, Kent Draper from IRN, he's a data center provider focused on renewable energy. And he's bringing up a key concern: power access.
Power access.
Yeah, he's saying we need to address the data center supply shortage, but also the power access bottlenecks.
So even if we build all these data centers, if we can't power them up, it's all for nothing, right?
Exactly. And he's worried about potential grid strain and delays in getting these new data centers online.
Yeah, that makes sense. New grid interconnections take time.
Right. He's hoping that this public investment in AI infrastructure can help mitigate the risk of centralized computing power.
It's interesting, right? We've got all these potential benefits, but also all these concerns. So what does it all mean for you, the listener? We'll dig deeper into these questions and explore potential solutions in part 2 of this deep dive. Stay with us.
Yeah, this is just the beginning.
So we're back and still trying to wrap our heads around this whole Stargate project.
It's a lot to take in, right? I mean, $500 billion for AI development. That's a game changer for sure.
And we've been hearing from all these different experts. Some are excited, some are worried. It's like everyone's trying to figure out what this means for the future.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag of reactions, but one thing that keeps coming up is the whole energy question.
Right. Like, how are we going to power all these data centers without, like, destroying the planet?
Well, it's interesting because, even before Stargate, researchers were already predicting a big jump in U.S. electricity demand just from AI.
Something like 16%, right?
Yeah, pretty crazy. And then you've got President Trump's other action, like halting clean energy funding. It's like, are we going forward or backward here?
It does seem a bit contradictory, right?
It definitely raises some questions about the overall energy strategy. But hey, let's not forget that there are people working on solutions.
Yeah, we talked about Costas Samaras and his optimism about, bring your own power and virtual power plants.
Right. Those could be real game changers if they're implemented effectively.
And then there's the Electric Power Research Institute. They were talking about the importance of a diverse energy mix.
Yeah. Wind, solar batteries, natural gas, they're all part of the equation.
So it's not just about finding one magic solution.
Yeah.
It's about having a flexible and adaptable approach.
Exactly. And geographically distributed computing. That's another key piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, that keeps coming up. For energy efficiency and access.
It's like spreading the risk, right?
Yeah.
Instead of putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. But it also adds another layer of complexity because now you have to make sure that all these different locations have access to reliable and sustainable energy.
That's a great point, and it ties into Leinerold's concerns about tech companies potentially getting preferential grid access.
Yeah, we don't want a situation where the big guys get all the power and the little guys are left in the dark.
Right. Equity is a huge issue here.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the smaller businesses who are already struggling to get access to resources like GPUs.
Yeah, Josh Messot brought that up, right? The GPU shortage.
Yeah, he's worried that Stargate's benefits are going to be concentrated at the top.
And we've also got to think about the practical challenges of actually building all these data centers.
That's where Kent Draper's concerns about power access bottlenecks come into play.
It's not enough to just have the space and the equipment. You need to be able to power it all up.
Exactly. And grid interconnections take time. So we need to be thinking about this stuff now, not when it's already too late.
So it's like a giant puzzle with all these interconnected pieces.
And we're still trying to figure out how they all fit together.
I mean, on the one hand, you've got this huge push for AI development and all the potential benefits that come with it.
Right. Like advancements in healthcare, transportation, education. The possibilities are endless.
But on the other hand, we've got to be mindful of the potential downsides.
Job displacement, environmental impact, the risk of centralizing power. These are all real concerns that we can't just ignore.
It's a balancing act for sure. And it's not easy to find that sweet spot.
It's going to require a lot of careful planning and collaboration from everyone involved.
So where do we go from here? What other perspectives are we missing? What are the potential unintended consequences of all this? We'll continue exploring these questions in the final part of our deep dive. All right, so we're back. And, we spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive really trying to untangle this whole Stargate project.
$500 billion for AI development. It's a bold move, no doubt about it.
And we've heard so many different viewpoints. Like, it's exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Right. It's like standing on the edge of this uncharted territory. We have no idea what's going to happen.
But that's kind of the thing about AI, right? It's full of unknowns.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so fascinating and so potentially dangerous.
Absolutely. We've talked about the potential benefits, the economic growth, the advancements in healthcare and transportation, but we've also talked about the risks, the job displacement, the environmental impact, the possibility of concentrating too much power in the hands of a few.
And that's where the whole idea of safeguards comes in.
Yeah. Exactly. We need to be thinking about ways to guide this technology in a direction that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Like guardrails on a highway, right? To keep us from veering off course.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just about preventing the misuse of AI. It's also about protecting privacy, ensuring fairness and equity, mitigating the environmental impact.
And that's going to require a lot of collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Between governments, researchers, industry leaders, and honestly, even everyday citizens like us.
Absolutely. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI. It's not something that's just going to happen to us. We have agency. We have a voice.
And that's why conversations like this are so important,
Yeah.
to raise awareness, to get people thinking critically about these issues, to spark a dialogue.
Exactly. Because the decisions we make now about AI are going to have ripple effects for generations to come.
So let's not shy away from the tough questions, right? Let's challenge assumptions. Let's explore alternative approaches. Let's be bold, but also be responsible.
Right. Because we're not just talking about technology here. We're talking about humanity. We're talking about the kind of world we want to live in.
And that's a world where AI empowers us all.
Right.
Not just a select few.
Exactly. A world where it helps us solve some of our biggest challenges.
Like climate change, poverty, disease, the things that really matter.
And it's within our grasp to create that world. It's not some distant utopia. It's a future we can actively build.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Stargate Project, let's remember that the conversation is far from over.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah.
And we need to keep talking, keep questioning, keep pushing the boundaries.
Because the future of AI is ultimately in our hands. It's up to us to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
So let's do this. Let's build that future together.
That's it for this episode of AI on AI. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride.
It's been a pleasure.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
Spread the word.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of the world of AI. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring.